Poetry writing. Poetry writing. It's not a it's not a simple process, and even after you've learned what poetic devices are, even after you've learned all of these things, you still run into the issue of how do I express myself? How do I get myself out in a way that is creative, that is appealing? And I mean, rhyming isn't everything, but poetry has a sense as a tradition to rhyme. It has a tradition of has a tradition of wordplay, and it's how to improve that wordplay, even even within the boundaries that most traditional poems set. What I'm going to do in this part of the tutorial, or this little snippet here, it shouldn't be more than 5 minutes long. Hopefully it's not, because it's not really a lot of information, really. What I hope to do is give you an idea of what you can do to develop those abilities. So this part of the entire thing, I just call it practice. This is what you do to practice. I just wrote a couple of things down, so I'm just going to go start from the top here. The first thing we're talking about in poetic devices in the first video is poetic devices. How do you get a grasp on poetic devices? What if you don't use them naturally? What can you do to develop them in your writing? My suggestion, this is one thing. I have this one suggestion that does work on that. I'm going to move off from poetic devices after I do this. But what you can do with poetic devices is get an 8-line poem. That's typically 2 verses, four lines per stanza, or whatever you wanna divide that. And in each of these 8 lines, use one poetic device, and only that one poetic device, and repeat and repeat and repeat until it becomes natural. So for the first 8, for the first time you do it, use a simile. Continue to use similes, then use a metaphor, then continue to use metaphors until it's become so natural that's not what you write. And then you could use alliteration next. You could use what's the next one here? Paradoxes. You could use sorry, I'm a little bit personification in others. I'm a little bit rusty here. I can't remember the exact names for all of them, but you get the idea. Check the first video I did if you want to get not complete list of poetic devices. If you want a complete list, might as well just go on the internet, use Google, and type in poetic devices. I feel like the ones that I did put in that first video are pretty much used on a regular basis in poetry writing. So that list should be able to give you a head start. So the idea is just get that 8-line poem and only use one poetic device in that poem, and continue to do that until that poetic device becomes natural. What you can do later on, after you've gone through all of them and you've practiced, and your practice is mix them up. Put 8 different poetic devices in each line. The reason why I say this is that it's like any skill you have. It's like if you play sports, or if you play an instrument, you have to practice. There are people who can do it in a sense that that's just how they speak or how they come across. But it's something you still have to develop, like any muscle and any practical skill. And that's one way to go about it. It's exercises. And if you do want it to become more fluid after you've practiced this, eventually it will become as easy as breathing, as easy as walking, to the point where it feels natural, instead of a structured piece of, like, instead of an architect designed house, it's more of a tree house. Something natural is the word I'm looking for, and I keep using it, but natural is the word that I am looking for. So in that sense, that's one way to get yourself into the idea of or actually get to be able to see what the internals of a poem look like before you even start to write poems. So the next thing is how to practice your rhyming, or rhythm, or anything like that. Not so much rhythm with this one, because rhythm is something you can practice based on the type of poem you want to write. Rhythm is something that depending on the poem you write, it'll be based on the syllables that the syllable constraints you have within the poem. So rhythm isn't something you necessarily have to think about too much. It's based on that. And if you're going to free write, rhythm is based on whatever you choose the rhythm to be. So this is me telling you how to stay within boundaries. So eventually you can go outside those boundaries and express something that is creative and profound. Um, the first thing I wrote down here is to make a poem with one word. You start off with one word, and what you try to do is use that word in every line of your poem. So if you had a four, I'll just give you 4 lines because I don't have the time to really get too deep into it. I guess this is stretching further than 5 minutes, but the idea is if you have one word, say for the word hugs, you think to yourself, hugs and kisses to the person I adore the most. I talked to that person, gave them hugs until they became a ghost. I even gave them hugs before we had a toast. And it wasn't a lot more interesting when I gave them hugs because I was the host. You see, the idea is that I intentionally rhymed those lines because it just gives you an idea of what to do. But the word hugs is the key factor in that entire in those 4 lines. Hugs is the word that stands out. And if you can do that, the idea is you're not supposed to do anything deep. It's practice. So the idea is to do that. But you're going to be writing it down. The reason why I'm doing this outright is because I'm here in front of the camera, but write it down. And it won't come as quickly. And the more you do it, the quicker it comes. And the deeper the lines become. And the more in-depth the stories you're able to convey. So that's one thing. Use one word in each line. And then continue to work on it. That will work on your ability to write. That will work on your ability to dictate the direction of a poem. The next thing I'd like to do is 4 words that rhyme. So you get dog, fog, log, smog. So I start off with dog in the first line. Today in the park I was walking the dog. Strange enough as it seems, I got lost in a fog. I couldn't see my way. He guided me and I tripped over a log. I came out dirty as if I got lost in the smog. Again, it's just simple. It's stupidity. It's pointless, but it's just to develop the idea. The poetry that you will write eventually will become more complex, but it's just something as simple as that. The next thing is one word. Then you rhyme that one word. It's you start off with one word. You just start off with one word and you make a poem based off that one word. Tower. Tower is the word you're going to use, and basically you're just trying to convey the idea of a tower. I was walking, the elevator was taking me high. It wanted to make me fly. I was on the 13th floor. I don't even know why. Bad luck. I went to the top of the tower. I made it. I am that guy. So it's something simple as that. As simple and as uncomplicated as that. Uncomplicated is not a word, but yes, I like to use it, and eventually everybody will use it and it'll become a word. But it's something within those parameters that you use that idea and you continue to practice and practice and practice and practice and practice. And as tedious as it may seem, just like with any other skill, as I stated before, it becomes natural. It becomes a part of who you are. Because right now, the reason why I didn't write anything down is because, again, I said I'm on a video. But these are things that you write down. I don't always write down what I do because to the point that I've done the things that I've told you right now, it's become a part of how I think. It's become a part of my speech. The point is I can have an entire conversation within poetry. I could tell you an entire story within poetry, with the idea of poetry, with the idea of rhyme, with the idea of rhythm. That's how it will become eventually. If you can just get up and write something in a day, just write something in a day and practice. It's not for everybody. So if you find yourself becoming lethargic and you find yourself losing interest, then maybe poetry isn't something that is for you. But it's something you can pick up in a hobby, and it's something that you can find a deeper meaning in. So I would still encourage interest so that when you do read poetry, you're better able to understand what the poet is trying to bring across. So the other idea is words, is your vocabulary. Build your vocabulary. I have a couple ideas here. You can word games, Scrabble, Hangman, just simple things like that. There's this other word game that I like. That I like also, where you have a 4-letter word, a 3-letter word, or a 5-letter word, and you start off with one 5-letter word, and you do your best. You see how few words you can use to convert that 5-letter word into another 5-letter word. So you start off with, say, I'll use a 4-letter word. You start off with smug, and you try to convert smug into drum. So smug to drum. And you see how long it takes for you to take smug and convert it into drum, changing one letter at a time. One letter at a time. Anyways, that the reason why I say use 5 or 4-letter words, because it's not the length of the words, or the size of the words that are going to convey your idea. It's how well you put your words together and how well you understand the meaning of the words that you're using. So use words that you're comfortable with. I prefer to use shorter words that convey a deeper meaning than big words that distract from the poetry that I am writing. And the simpler the words, not even just small or short, just the simpler the words, or the more common the words, the easier it is for you to convey what you want to another person. And if somebody has to look up something a little bit too much in your poetry, they tend to lose interest, and it tends to become a very personal thing that you aren't able to share. And sometimes a poet likes to share. And actually, most poets usually do like to share. They're shy about sharing, but they would love to share that intimate part of them through that poetry. So keep that in mind. The other thing is I'd like to suggest, like everybody would suggest, is read. Read, 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 read. So that you understand the context words are supposed to use, and so that you know what words mean. Simple as that. Just read. Read as much as you can. Read a newspaper. Read a pamphlet. Go on a website and read the website. It's nothing you have to read a book. Just simply read, so you learn words, so that you know what words mean. And that's how the thing about learning any language is learning the context of the words that you use. You don't even have to learn grammar, because within the thing you use, you could even use your words to dictate a new grammatical stances. You don't even have to be structured towards the grammar of the language that you use, but simply understanding how words are used will still convey the meaning that you need. So just read and learn more words. And after you learn a word, use it. Use it in context. Use it with the people around you. Use it and tell them within certain. Let them know what you're trying to get at, so that you're better able to use it when you need it to put inside your own poetry. So basically, you're going to learn a word today, but you continue to use that word as if you never knew what it meant. So that eventually it'll become less novel and become a natural word. Even if you never use that word again, you might need to draw on that word another time in a poem, for simply case of rhyming, for simple case of you need an extra syllable, and that word is the only word you can use. And I would suggest for that now, use a thesaurus. Don't be stuck on using the same words. If you have a word, unless you intentionally are repeating a word, use a thesaurus to convey it. With that in mind, that's just what you need to do. Practice. Those are just simple ideas you can use to get that general feel for what poetry is like. If you want to learn how to write structured poems, like I said before in the first video, there's a lot of links out there to do that. That's not what I'm trying to show you or convey to you. I'm just trying to convey to you the meaning of poetry, what it feels like, and what it looks like, and what it should bring out in you as a reader or a writer. As I've said, I don't know exactly how that will come across to you in the end, but I do feel that it was quite linear, and if you take the words that I've said to heart and use them over time, you will develop a more or deeper understanding of what you're trying to do. Again, this isn't for someone who already knows how to write or want or already writes. It's for people who are trying to develop the ability. The reason why I never really did another video before, because I couldn't convey certain simple things to the way I understand what I do. I wasn't able to break it down into smaller ideas. After talking to my little sister, I was trying to show her certain things, and this is the best way I got it across to her, and she understood it. So I'm hoping that that understanding is something that I can pass on as well.